Kia ora, this is Liz. Welcome to Dames of Blaze. If you're new to the channel, can I suggest you go watch the intro video so you know what's going on. If you've already done all that and you know what's going on, then grab your Bible. And while you're grabbing your Bible, I will just remind you to subscribe if you have not already, to click the bell icon so that you get notified when a new video drops, and to give me a like because that helps to up the algorithm and might send it out to a few more people. Today we are looking at John chapter 6. Verses 37 to 40, and I'll read them for you now. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will by no means cast out, for I've come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. This is the will of the Father who sent me, that of all he has given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up at the last day. And this is the will of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. So then, all that the Father gives me, he says, that all that is a neutered term, so it's neither masculine nor feminine, which if you're English speaker only, you won't know what that means. But I'm told that if it's masculine, it means individual, whereas when it's neutered, it's an en masse term. There is an all that the Lord has given to Jesus. Is that all humanity, or is that all that the Lord knows are his? I don't think it can refer to all humanity, because clearly all of humanity doesn't go to Jesus, even in his day. Although I can't go as far as to believe in the Calvinist doctrine of predestination. That doctrine states that some are predestined for heaven and some are predestined for hell, and that's that. Like, there's no free will. We don't know which is which, so the Calvinists still evangelists, but as I said, it kind of does remove free will from the picture. Now, these few verses would seem to give some credence to their claims, but I detect an underlying argument that I think we'll manage to nut out. Just because God is aware of who is going to follow Jesus, it does not follow that he predetermined they would do so. I guess it's a question of perspective. Either God chooses people before they are born, which would seem to be echoed in Jeremiah's words, before I formed you in the womb I knew you, before you were born I sanctified you, I ordained you as a prophet to the nations. So that's Jeremiah 1:5. That statement is specific to Jeremiah. It's not a promise to everyone, so I guess God could have predestined a few people, but the other people might have free choice. I don't know. Either that or God knows what's going to happen. And so it sounds like he's choosing when in fact what he's reflecting is a choice that's already been made. So it could just come down to a matter of perspective. When you're an eternal being, right, and you stand outside of time, you can see where things are going. Therefore, you can say, before I formed you, I knew you, right? He does in that sense know who's going to come and who isn't. But that isn't because he dictated to them. It's because he already knew what was going to happen, what choices we would make. But we're still the ones making the choices. That's how I see this whole idea. Others have a different view, and I'm not so set on my view that I couldn't be wrong. Either way, it's not a salvation issue, right? Whether God always intended for me to become a Christian, or whether it was a pure free will choice that I made, doesn't change the fact that I'm saved. And that saving was done through his blood, not by my choices or my actions. Let's put ourselves into this picture a little, because I think it'll help us to understand what Jesus is trying to get at here. So remember, he's in the synagogue at Capernaum among his disciples. Now we know he's among his disciples because Peter speaks up in verse 68. He's busy teaching. You know that from verse 59. A whole bunch of people turn up. They had been with him yesterday. They'd gotten fed with miraculous bread, right? So they think he's a king or a Moses type, and they've come to see him again, but not for the purposes that Jesus would have them come, right? He told them that he was the bread of heaven, that he's able to supply their needs that they don't even know they have. And he's just told them that they don't actually believe in him, which they will certainly prove to be true, as many of them leave with their heads spinning. See verse 66 for that one. Into this rather confused atmosphere, Jesus tells them, all that the Father gives me will come to me. So who is he referring to? Well, it can't be these folk that came from the other side of Galilee. He just said they didn't believe in him, right? But there were true believers there that day, right? Verse 64, he says, there are some who do not believe, for he knew from the beginning who they were who did not believe and who would betray him, right? So when he's speaking here in verse 37 then, he knows that there are some true believers. These would be the ones that the Father has given him, and some unbelievers, those that haven't been given. And he knows that the ones who the Lord has given will in fact come. There's a certainty to that will. They will come. They won't all come just to get the magical bread or be healed or be released from demons. There will be those who are given to him by the Father that will in fact come because he is who he says he is. Perhaps then what Jesus is doing here is encouraging himself. It can't have been easy to be surrounded by people all the time who came just for what they could get. It can't have been a fun time to constantly be healing and teaching, knowing that many of those you're helping will be disappearing as soon as you're done fixing them. There is a self-encouraging aspect to his words, I think, that we might overlook if we always think of Jesus as other than human. There's a human aspect to him that shines through from time to time. You see it in his frustration with Peter, right? Or his disappointment with the disciples. We heard the lament in the words of verse 36 last week. Don't forget that Jesus was human, had normal human desires and needs, got hungry, got thirsty, sought good, solid companionship. He came with a mission to save the people of Israel and through their salvation the world. But there were times when that was difficult, and this was possibly one of those times. The miracle of the bread should have made them pay attention to his words, but instead it just prompts a hunger for more bread. So he encourages himself. The ones the Father gives me will come. A certainty that I think he could rest his desire to be understood on, right? The ones that do come, and that word come is better translated arrive, these are people who already have their hearts set on Jesus. Peter's probably an example of this. He wavers, of course he does. His heart was still pretty set. That's why his folly by the fire made him so depressed. This is not describing people who are still dithering or slowly making their way to Jesus's party. These are people who've already accepted the invitation and shown up to the ball. And the one who comes, so this could be those that are still coming, which potentially puts us all in view. When Jesus was speaking, there were countless billions on their way, weren't they? They hadn't been born yet, but they were still on their way. None of these will he cast out, which underlines my message last week about the inability to lose our salvation. If we have arrived at Jesus' door, if we've been accepted into the beloved, then we will not be cast out again. Jesus doesn't have bouncers at the banquet. There's also an assurance here that everyone who does go to Jesus is accepted, no exceptions. If Judas had gone to Jesus instead of heading for the temple and the tree, he would have been forgiven. Jesus would not have cast even him out. Judas negated his own salvation, and that is always possible, right? Jesus will not cast you out, but you can throw yourself out. You can leave the party if you want to. It's not a prison cell. He will not cast them out because or for I have come down from heaven. Now, there are some weirdos out there who say that because he comes down from heaven, he wasn't born of a virgin. But that is to take this in too literal a sense. This is not a statement about his means of arrival on the planet, but rather what he is. No, not just fully human, but fully human and fully divine. From heaven in a way that we are not. We might have been designed by heaven, but we didn't come out of heaven in the way he did. And why has he come down? Well, yeah, hang on. To do the will of the Father. Jesus didn't come with his own agenda. There's nothing of his own choices in what he does, which is interesting, really. Does that mean he would have had a different agenda from God? Well, that can't be true, because in other places he says that he and the Father are one. If they are one, they have the same agenda. That agenda is explained in the next two verses, right? 1, part of it is that all he is given by the Father will not be lost. And the second part of it is that whoever believes in Jesus will be saved. That means they'll be given everlasting life and raised up on the last day, which is quite an agenda when you think about it. Sorry. Where was I? So he said, this is the will of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son, right? The word sees is actually better translated beholding or looking to. It's not referring to actually seeing him with your physical eyes, which is good, you know, because if we had to actually take this literally, everyone since the 1st century wouldn't fit this bill. The root for the word see is the same root for the word theatre, right? And we've met it several times, but I'll just refresh your memory. It means to gaze at something in order to analyze it. In other words, it's a discerning gaze, not a casual glance, which does in fact make it sound like physical seeing. But in the context of this verse, it actually has more of the feel of someone looking to another for help. So it's not about visually looking, it's about trusting someone. So I look to my husband to get things off a high shelf, because he's 6'2" and I'm 5'0". But I'm not actually looking physically at him. Sometimes I might be talking to him from another room, but I am looking to him for help in a metaphorical sense, right? So those that look to Jesus, who trust and rely on, put their faith in him, these are the ones who have everlasting life and will be raised up on the last day. It's pretty simple stuff, really. So simple that we've tried to complicate it over the years. Good on us. Tried to add bits and pieces to the simple, straightforward message of the gospel. This is the message, right? Trust in Jesus, you'll be saved from hellfire and damnation. I don't know why we feel the need to complicate it, but there it is in a nutshell. You could literally write it on a nutshell if you wrote small enough and had a big enough nutshell. As the lyrics of the Need to Breathe song, I Am Yours, which I totally encourage you to listen to, they say this: I am yours, you are mine. It seems like madness I'm invited to the table by your side. It shouldn't be, you know, that God invites us to partake of the wedding feast of the Lamb. It would be like King Charles sending us an invite to his grandson's birthday party. Why would he even know my name? Let alone invite me to the party, right? But there it is. He does. You're invited. And if you're a Christian, you've accepted the invitation. Therefore, you cannot be cast aside. But don't use that as an excuse to sin, right? All who believe in him may have. Shame the King James uses the word may there. These days, that kind of is a doubtful word. The original Greek is a definite meaning, to have and to hold, to possess. It's an active word. You already possess it, everlasting life. Our bodies don't have it, clearly. That should be obvious to all of us. But our spirits do. They are sealed. Now, we can remove the seal if we want, though why would we want to do that? Other than that, we are sealed, and we will be raised up at the last day, which does seem to shut down the idea that when I die, the minute I die, I end up in heaven. But then what is time in an eternity, right? I don't know that we can take our existing models of time with us into an eternal space. Our ideas of time are wrapped around a very small yellow sun. They don't really work outside our galaxy, just saying. So the response of the people listening to this promise that Jesus gives is pretty pitiful, right? All they can do is murmur about the bread of heaven part. Seems like they missed the rest of his statement, but don't let it pass you by. You're saved, you know. If you're a Christian, you're saved. You've got your seat at the table booked. Your name's on that little card telling you where to sit. It's a done deal. Your ticket's been bought and paid for by the blood of the Lamb. So rest then in the arms of the divine, safe in the knowledge that you will by no means be cast aside. I'm going to leave you with one of David's lovely psalms. David, who was such a reprobate. This is Psalm 139, verses 1 to 18. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You understand my thoughts from afar. You search my path and my lying down. You are aware of all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, you know all about it, O Lord. You hem me in behind and before you have laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go to escape your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle by the farthest sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even the darkness is not dark to you, but the night shines like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you formed my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and I know this very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All my days were written in your book and ordained for me before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God, how vast is the sum of them. If I were to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand, and when I awake, I am still with you. You will by no means be cast aside. Let that bring you comfort in the coming week. I pray blessings upon you and your household, and I look forward to hearing and seeing from you again next week. Ka kite anō.